Hey guys. Alright, the next step in the AR-15 build is we're going to install the Palmetto State Enhanced Polished Fire Control set.
Okay. So first things first, we're going to dump out all the parts into this cool little tray that Joe got called the parts tray. And I don't need instructions. I got Joe. So what do we do first, Joe?
Make sure all the parts are in the parts tray so we don't lose them. Okay. We've got the AR disassembled already down to the lower receiver, and you're going to need to take out the two pins that hold all the pieces together. Roll pins. We're going to block underneath the gun. I've got just a couple pieces of wood that I keep in my armor's kit. They're usually made for barrel blocks. I put vice to keep stuff from getting marred up. But we're going to put that underneath so we can tap these things out. If you're super concerned about marring, you can put a piece of tape over. Because I'm going to convince him that he should spray paint it all. He's going to do whatever he wants. And then we're using a hammer. We're using the nylon part. You're not hitting steel on steel, so you're less likely to have any extra stuff coming out. The pins in question are going to be these two. On the opposite side of the firearm. Same location. It really doesn't matter which way you drive these. And before we start, Josh is going to release the hammer. So we don't just want to take the safety off, pull the trigger, and run the hammer forward. That hammer is going to hit this part of the frame right here. And without the hammer hitting the firing pin as it would all put together, you run the risk of cracking this piece. You're going to take it unsafe. You're going to put your finger over the hammer, pull the trigger. You're going to ease it forward. You're taking the tension off the spring there, making it easier to grab the pins out. And also when you take it apart, it's less likely to have things flying all over the place.
Alright, so here we go. We're going to drive the pins.
Okay. Hold on.
It's in the block.
Yep. Ease that mamma jamba out. I'm going to put some pressure on the pin. Okay. We're having a gypsy camp going on here.
Alright. So this is all the mil-spec trigger assembly and all that stuff.
Yep. So the big difference here is that these are all spec. These are just polished up, so they're going to smooth out. They're smoothed out like you would have a mil-spec trigger after thousands and thousands of cycles. You're just getting that right away. It's not a professional grade trigger, but what it is a much smoother, much crisper, very affordable, and it keeps your trigger consistent with what stock would normally be. So guys that are running duty guns, you're not losing or you're not having a different trigger pull from one gun to the other. Guys that don't have to worry about that, it's not really a factor. But if you spend a lot of your life running a mil-spec trigger, I thought this was a nice upgrade, $30, and then I have all the spare parts. If any of this stuff breaks, it's in my parts kit. I can fix the trigger control group.
Alright, now that we got all the parts out, I'm just going to put the old parts in the new bag as spare parts, like Joe said. And that way we don't get any of the old parts confused with the new parts.
No crossing of streams?
No crossing streams. That'd be not good.
We'll go Ghostbusters. Alright, we're going to talk about how these things all work together. I'm not going to put the springs on just yet. Get your trigger. It's your disconnectors here, or both. I forget what it's called. But this thing keeps it from going full auto. It's going to fit in with this hook facing forward as it would be if it's in the gun. Curvy part of the trigger means bullets are coming out that way. This hook, the opening is going to be facing this way. We've got this notch on the hammer and this notch in the corner of the trigger. You pull the trigger, it's going to rotate down. This is allowed to spring forward. That's how the firing goes on. When that happens, this disconnector will rock forward because this trigger's forward. And when the hammer is pushed back by the bolt, it'll catch. And it'll latch it in place so it doesn't go full auto. And as you release the trigger, this will slide forward, but it'll catch on the hook again, the notch. On the trigger here, and then resetting you for the next shot. If that makes any sense at all.
What does this little tiny spring do?
That little spring is going to go in this little groove, this spring size hole right here. You're going to push that in there, and I'm going to sit in this little notch here. These circles, these holes, are where the pins are going to go through in the receiver. Alright, so we still have the trigger and this spring right here. Same thing, you got some of these ears, got the circles. So we're going to have this bar connecting the two sides going underneath the trigger here. Okay. Underneath there, two dog legs pushing forward. All right. Cool. Next thing we've got, ours is a little green spring here, spring-shaped circle. Bring our notch, gonna line up. If it looks like it fits together, it's because it does. All right, got our hammer spring, and we need to have the spring going over these ears. We've got the hook facing this way. We've got our spring, so it looks like it's a flat part. Go this way. Need tension on this side. Circle through one of these dog legs, or ears. Hook, spring's going to be there, flat line's facing this way. As you bend it back, it'll provide forward tension to hit the firing pin. Tracking?
Yep.
Okay. As it sits in the gun, trigger's going to go in first, hammer is going to go in second. Once that pin is holding the hammer and all the other pieces in, these dog legs are going to be sitting on top of that.
Alright, Joe, let's give it a shot. So I got the trigger, the sear, and the spring preloaded. I'm going to drop those in. Okay. Everything's into place. The spring's got a little out of tension, pushing it forward. So what do we do next?
So we're going to this pin here, and we're going to line all those things up.
Okay.
And we're going to put one of your two pins in there on the opposite side and push it through once everything's lined up. So you're going to look on your side, you're going to try and make 6 holes line up.
Alright, so I'm just going to do a little tapping.
As our monkey with the football demonstrated that all the holes have to be lined up. So, a little pressure down, disconnect, and
oh, look at that.
And we'll go in the rest of the way. Don't bang on it as hard as you can with your hammer. Make it all scratched up before you start putting spray paint on it. Okay. So now, whole thing's in there. Trigger seems to be working so far for what little parts we have. Okay?
Okay, let's move on to the hammer.
So again, remember how the springs are laying?
So we want tension going forward, so we want to have it, put it in like this. It's just going to rock forward. This is where you have 3 hands. It makes it easy. Oh, look,
We
it's in.
actually latched.
Yep.
So as you can see, the angle that everything sits at will tell you if you're lined up or not. Just like before, don't beat it to death with your hammer. Gentle taps and play with it. So I'm just pushing it with my thumb. Pretty much got everything lined up. Give it a little gentle tap there.
And it's flush.
Okay. You didn't even scratch it up too bad. Okay, so now we're here. We want to make sure that this works, right? This should be under tension. It is. Remember, we don't want this to run forward and hit our frame. You heard it click. It means that this connector's picked it up on it. And then as you let it forward, the hammer is re-engaging the trigger itself. It's not flying forward. We're on the fire on our safety here. Put my thumb in front of it so it doesn't strike the frame. No trigger. Okay. It worked. Let's test another thing. Put it on safe. Put our thumb there just in case it does fire. It's not going off. Okay. Back on fire. It does. Pushing it back. Like the bolt would. Clicks and resets. Okay. So we did it right.
Cool. Thanks, Joe.
Not a problem.